Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Player's Sake episode 113. I am your host, Justin D. Simone, joined by my co-host, the quirkless man, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, man. So, I'm referencing My Hero Academia there. I started watching it this past week. And I'll tell you
like
what.
it?
I'll tell you what. I'm a fan.
Yeah, buddy.
I do
Just
like the
don't let
show.
anyone else know. Don't let anyone on Twitter know that.
Why? Are people hating it right now?
No, that fan base is people love the anime. The fan
Okay.
base is fucking crazy.
Toxic? Yeah.
Yo, I'll give you an example. You'll hear this name when you get further into the anime. It's somebody named Endeavor. He's a terrible.
I'm 40 episodes in, so yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So you know how much of a piece of shit
He's a piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone on Twitter apparently came out as a pedophile.
I saw this.
Yeah.
And he referenced something that Endeavor says, which I haven't gotten to that point in the anime yet. However, yeah, I saw the whole hullabaloo around that, and that guy, bro, Endeavor's not a role model, dude. Like,
the thing is, right? So when My Hero became really popular, because I was reading a manga like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when it became really popular, the Rule 34 thing came out. That's with every anime. But for some reason,
yeah.
So I'm on the fence about this. I'm not on the fence about it. It's just I don't really particularly care. So Rule 34 was coming out for My Hero, and people on Twitter were complaining about it. And Twitter now is mainly like old Tumblr people.
Mm-hmm.
So people on Twitter were complaining about it, and they were like, "Oh, if you like Rule 34 from My Hero, these are like 17 and 16-year-olds. You're a fucking pedophile."
They're literally 15, dude.
Yeah, they
15.
are.
Yeah,
and they're like, "You're a fucking pedophile and shit like that," and all this stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're right."
Yeah.
But people have been doing this since the dawn of time, and it's like,
this is an anime thing, dude. Everyone
exactly.
Now, I will say, I'm not defending anybody who's into that stuff. However,
yeah, I'm not either. It's just
the female characters in My Hero though are fucking cute. Okay, there's like no way around that. They really are. I like almost every single one of them. Like they have really great personalities. They're very charming characters.
in that aspect, yeah, they are really there's some really good character designs.
Even looks wise, they're very cute. Okay,
I can give you that.
I'm just saying.
There's nothing wrong with saying that. The problem was I guess a lot of
well,
people
it's getting into when you're doing Rule 34 shit. I mean, you're taking it a step too far.
Yeah,
it's Jesus Christ. So I get it. It is literally like you kind of into pedophilia, basically. But
because I remember the whole way back in the day, the Sailor Moon stuff. The Sailor Moon, I think is only 15, 16.
God,
or so.
Okay, that show though. I'm gonna be honest though. The women in that show look a lot more like adults. The character designs are a lot more mature. I guess is what
I think in the later seasons they're older.
Yeah.
But in the earlier seasons, they are
true. They are
school.
pretty young. They're pretty young. They're literally in high school. I think in the show, that's part of the plot, isn't it? But back to My Hero. So yeah, I'm on episode 40. I do like the show. Okay, I like it a lot. I don't know why I'm a sucker for shonen because I'm really jaded about it. I have a feeling I'm really gonna dislike this show eventually. But right now, I'm having a blast, man.
This show has been consistent.
Okay.
I think it's really they're working off of the Western theme of superheroes, so I don't think it's gonna have the same shonen-esque as Naruto or anything like that. I really like Deku, because he's super weak, but then as you see, he has to actually learn everything.
He's like a really intelligent Naruto.
Yeah.
He's got the same gutsiness that Naruto has, but he's smart.
Yeah, and then the episodes don't all revolve around him. Everyone,
true, which is great.
They build the world up. They build the other characters up. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. You can see it. Even the villains themselves. It's a very well balanced shonen, and I see why someone can say it's one of their greatest shonens of all time. If someone told me that and they're like, "Yeah, My Hero's the greatest," I wouldn't counter it with anything. I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I can see that.
Well, I so yeah, the characters are great. I think almost everybody. There are some characters that I can't stand, like Mineta or whatever the fuck his name is, the stupid grape head kid, whatever he is.
Yeah, yeah,
He's just a giant pervert, and I mean, I get the point. It's whatever. It's supposed to be funny in some ways, but he's just annoying. But then there's some other side characters that are like the fucking dude who like shoots tape out of his elbows or
Oh
whatever.
my god, yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is
So
this
that was my
character,
biggest
dude?
gripe with
Uh,
with My Hero.
mhm.
So the class 1A is supposed to be the class that's like the best
Yeah,
superheroes,
they're the
right?
best of the best, right? Yeah.
And then you meet class 1B and they have way better like some of them have way better powers than the tape guy. And I'm like, how's the tape guy
Yeah, or the guy
1A?
who looks like a rock who can make animals do what he wants. Like, okay, like what? Like, is that a good quirk? I don't think
I
so.
guess like, with reconnaissance and stuff like that, that's a really cool quirk
I
because
guess so,
he
but
even can talk to like bugs, I think too.
he did. Yeah, no, yeah, I watched an episode where he used bugs really effectively. But the thing about it is, like, he's not like a fighter though. He's not going to be like a guy who's like going toe to toe with All Might. Like,
Yeah, and
so
see that's the thing I like about it because they showed that you can be S tiers in other ranks. So I think he'll be an
yeah,
S tier in like reconnaissance
scouting
or
and yeah,
yeah,
reconnaissance or just like utility kind of thing. But
exactly, yeah, yeah,
yeah, but then there's characters like, I mean, I will say Midoriya or Deku, however you want to say his name.
yeah.
He is like set up to just become Goku basically. And that's why I'm jaded about it, because his potential is like extremely high, like to the point where no one can touch him. But at the same time, I do think they've done a good job of really not letting him jump too far ahead of everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yep.
Because it would be really easy for him to eclipse everyone around him. So I'm gonna be curious to see how the other kids evolve over the course of this show. Because they have some of them have really good powers, but their ceiling is just not as high as Deku's. At least in my head they're not, but maybe they can figure out how to do it. But
Well, I
um,
think it's like a more of a mental thing. They don't really use their powers. Their powers are so forefronted that they don't really have to use creative ways to use it. Whereas with
mm,
Deku, like he has to use his quirks or he has to use it. He knows what his quirk is, but he has to use it in ways where it doesn't like fucking put his body to shit. So
yeah.
I just think the way
Well,
they
his
written,
control is the big issue right now.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
I've gotten to the point where he's able to control it decently well, where he's not breaking his fucking arm every time he attacks. Like,
Yeah.
he's at the point now where that's like he can at least fight. you know,
Yeah, and I think
um,
that's really cool it's like really slow pace like that. I like
yeah,
that type of
yeah.
stuff.
No, and I'm gonna be honest. The politics of this world, they're doing a good. The story is doing a good job of making sure that's not falling out of the focus too
Yes.
much.
Yeah. Yep.
Because All Might as a character, he's like Superman basically, but I mean he can't fly technically, but like he's just like super powerful though. He's like his quirk is ridiculous. And but I like the fallout of his presence within the world of the heroes, because a lot of people talk about this is that he's basically the reason the status quo is the way it is, and when he's out of the picture things are going to change.
Mhm. Yep.
And he's in a severe decline. I mean that's obvious at the very beginning of the series. This isn't a spoiler, but um he's in decline clearly, and there's like it's like almost like a ticking time bomb, before he's out of the picture in some form or fashion. And once that happens, all these other players are ready and waiting to take the power vacuum, what is going to be left behind, villains and even other heroes. And I will say Stain, the hero killer character, I really liked his brief period of time on the show, because he's approaching villainy in such an obtuse way compared to others, is that he's a villain because he thinks the heroes in the world are fake. Like, he doesn't think they're authentic. Like, they're not heroic because they want to be heroic. They're heroic because they want to make money or they want to be popular. like it's a shallow form of being a hero, and he thinks they've ruined what being a hero is,
Yeah.
um and he thinks All Might is the true hero. Like, he says like he's the only guy he will let kill him, and everyone else is basically like dog shit to him. But I like the way he's presented, because he makes everyone around him really think about the world they live in. Not just
Yeah.
not just the hero characters, but the villains as well. Like there's a villain he interacts with who's like, pretty much seems to be our primary sub antagonist. But that character almost goes through like an existential crisis because of everything that happens around that dude. And I really like the exploration of that, is that he kind of has to find his own answer to what that guy was doing. So the show is cool. It's thoughtful, I think, and I hope it stays that way. um I guess my question to you is, though, do you know, so the anime right now I think has 93 or 94 episodes. Do you know how much further ahead the manga is compared to the
Uh,
show?
the manga is actually about to do a time skip, another time skip.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so
Okay.
it's actually like almost at the end, I would say.
Hmm.
Because what people are predicting is they're not gonna do. I'm not spoiling anything, but they're not gonna make like they're not gonna go. They're gonna end where Midoriya finally gets super control of everything, and
Yeah.
like he is the top dog.
Hmm.
So that's what a lot of people think they're gonna end it. He's gonna their author's gonna end it right there. And then he also is writing a side manga that only comes out like once or twice a month, and it's
Hmm.
called My Hero or My Villain Academia. Whereas he's
Mm.
doing the villain's perspective of things, and there are some events that overlap, but you just get a way better perspective of how the villains think and why they're doing the stuff that they do. Like a lot of them
Hmm.
are reject heroes, a lot of them are like their heroes may have been doing something and they had to choose between like one of their family members or somebody else, and they chose somebody else, and their family member died. And they was like, these are not true fucking heroes. Like, it's
Hmm.
just a lot of nuance to these villains. Besides, they're bad for being bad. Like
Yeah.
they have a lot of nuance to them. I mean, you can see that throughout My Hero itself, but like My Villain Academia, I just started reading that, and yeah, it's like it's really cool. I think that author is like I mean, the author, he already said that he loves Western comics. Like that's why he made
Hmm.
this shonen. But like you can just see like this is like a I don't know. I just love it because it is a perfect blend of anime and like Western comics.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
No, it's really cool. I think it's a great concept. I think it's really well executed as well. And I think the main characters that are kind of our primary cast are really good. There are some side characters that I could do without, but the main people we're following are really, really cool characters. And even some of the adults are really awesome too. To be honest, a lot of the teachers and some of the pro heroes that we get to see are really interesting too. Like, for instance, the All Might is like, it's funny to like the show. I feel like at times doesn't, he kind of just sits by the wayside sometimes, because he is like super powerful, but when he actually comes out and fights, man, like, like just the overwhelming nature of his power is just so fucked up, dude. Because they're like doing like there was like a one episode where they're doing a training exercise and they had to like fight their teachers, and two of the characters had to fight him, and dude, he just fucked him up, dude. It was just so like, it's like not even a fight.
yeah,
So yeah, no, it's just he's really cool though. I like the point that we get to see him at, where he's like kind of falling off, but he's still super strong when he actually puts as much like all of himself into a fight. Like he can be super powerful, but it's like for bursts.
yeah,
Um
exactly.
so yeah, it's a really cool show. But this isn't an anime podcast, but I wanted to bring it up because I knew Montreal would be excited to hear that, because I know he's a fan of it. So yeah, but for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games, as well as other topics when they're, relevant. Uh, we post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Also, please send us your questions on Twitter at the Players Take, or to our email, theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And you can send us a question about anything. If you want to ask us about My Hero Academia, or you want to ask us a question about a game, or a game we're playing, or a game we're not playing, or maybe a game that you think we might have played and you want to hear our thoughts on it that we've never talked about, or some topic that we've talked about or we're going to talk about, anything like that, and we'll answer it here on the show. So please send us some questions. We are looking for that. So, Montrell, let's jump right in to what we've been playing. Do you want to go first? You told me that you've been busy. How dare you? You
Yeah,
didn't do
I
your
just been.
video game homework this week.
Yeah, I haven't really been playing too much stuff. I mean, I've been playing League of Legends, but for some reason, I haven't picked up Monster Hunter that much, and I think
Mm-hmm.
I am burnt out of the game finally after
Yeah.
14, 15 years of playing this
Yeah.
game. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm burnt out. Um, I beat low rank. I'm in high rank, and I just don't feel like doing it.
Is this my
I
fault? Have I rationalized too hard my criticisms of the series?
know when I played it, I already figured. I don't know. Maybe it's just weird how they did everything. They
Mm-hmm.
went they went to the old school model of doing stuff, which I like.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it's like okay, I'll give an example. I was fighting a monster on high rank, and it took like 10 minutes to beat it, 10 or 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes to beat it. And I was like exhausted after the fight. And the fight wasn't really that hard. I was just like, I'm exhausted. I don't feel like doing this
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of more times. And
Yeah.
it's like, um, and it's gonna be all for what? Like next year. I mean, yeah, probably next year or 6 months from now, G Rank's gonna come out. So why am I doing this? I'm just gonna wait for
Mm-hmm.
G Rank. And that's where I'm at right now. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to touch the game. Like I'm glad everyone else is playing it, and I feel bad because like a lot of people want to play this game with me, and they want to hunt, and we got people in our group chat who are wanting to hunt, and I got people on Twitter who want to hunt with me, and I'm just like, bro, like I'm glad y'all enjoying the game, but there's no master slash G rank, so I don't want to play it. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate criticism that I have of the game as well, man. And I was talking to Jet because he got the game, and I mean, dude, he's past me now. Like he's beyond where I'm at. And I'm enjoying the game. I'm playing it. I'm 6 star in the hub actually. So I'm pretty deep into it at this point. But I was talking to him yesterday, and he was asking me about G rank. Like, is it gonna be like the World of Warcraft expansion thing where, you know, you start the game and all the fucking gear and everything that you've grinded for hundreds of hours is completely worthless immediately? And I was like, yep, that is exactly what happens. And he was like, well, damn, that's kind of disappointing. And I was like, yeah, man. I mean, that's like, I told him, like, if every one of our friends didn't buy this fucking game, I wouldn't have bought it. I wouldn't have bought it because I don't care for that experience. I want G rank. Like, that's the game. Like, we're getting sold 2/3 of a game. Like, that's what they do with Monster Hunter. And everyone seems to love it and buys into it, and no one seems to really care about this. But it's something that I think you and I are starting to become more keenly aware of now, because it's this series isn't some niche thing in Japan anymore.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
it's here in the West. It comes day and date globally. Like that's how big Monster Hunter is now. So we're not getting just the ultimate versions of these games. We're getting both versions. And they're big deals when they come out. But given that, to me, I just don't see the value in playing through this game 3 times, fighting baggy in 3 different fucking ranks. Like, what is the point of that? There's no point to that other than wasting my time, because the fight's not interesting. It's not hard. Once you know how to fight a baggy, it's like a joke. Like, you don't even really pay attention to what it's doing. You just fucking hit it. It's like, and I think like that's true of a large amount of the early game monsters. And to me, I think that's like the most annoying part of it is I don't mind the late game monsters fighting them again, because a lot of them are much harder in high rank versus low rank. They're a little bit different to fight because you need to be more cautious. But and they also have some different moves sometimes too. But when you do it a third time though in G rank, it just starts to become a little tedious. And that was kind of my point when we were originally talking about this game, is just integrating low rank and high rank together is something I kind of want them to do, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Because
but
I feel like the high rank and low rank, honestly, are the same game. It's just
They are.
even the monsters are the same. Like I don't even feel like they have a different.
No, there's no variance in
Yeah,
high rank. Like we don't even have like Pink Rathian in this game,
yeah,
or like
exactly.
you
Like
know,
it's the same fight, but just more HP, and maybe they hit harder.
yeah,
And whereas with G rank, there is a difference between a G ranked Rathlos, regular Rathlos, and then a G or a high rank regular Rathlos. Like
yeah,
the G rank version may do different move sets and may do one hit KOs on you and stuff like that. Like majority of the mid tier to high tier monsters in G rank all have some kind of one hit move that wasn't a one hit move in the older on the previous versions of them.
hmm
So that's why I do like G rank. And then on top of that, you get better armor. It's more worth it to farm for them, and then you
Well,
can
you're
start
getting the
doing.
full. You're getting the full. You have the full progression in front of you at G
Yeah,
rank, because in high rank, right, like the game's not finished, right? You don't have access to everything. Like the armor sets aren't as good as they can be because G rank's coming and there's going to be better armor sets, meaning there's more gem slots on them, you have more skills on a lot of them, like all this stuff's better. It's same with the weapons. Like the weapons get more damage, they get higher, they get more gem slots, like they have higher damage and affinity numbers, like all this stuff is higher in G rank. So it's like it's like you're playing, in an ARPG, like there's multiple difficulties in ARPGs. You play
yeah,
like normal mode, then you play like in Diablo, it's like hell mode, and then you play like fucking infernal mode or whatever the fuck it's called. It's like we're getting normal mode and hell mode, and we stop at hell mode and we grind forever in hell mode to get this like amazing gear, and then infernal mode is released a year later and it costs $40. And it's like, okay, it's just I don't know. I don't know
it's
why no one talks about this, by the way. It's a
and
weird, I don't know.
that's where I was gonna go with. Like, I wish I was like a little bit more popular. Maybe you were, or maybe
Mhm.
we knew somebody like maybe
Yeah.
Team 4 Star who does all the fucking
Mhm.
Monster Hunter videos, or what's his name,
RX or something.
RX,
Or
yeah,
Gaijin Hunter.
or Gaijin
Yeah.
Hunter. I think they need
We
to
could
talk
just
about
like get
this.
on a show with them or something and like talk about this and bring this
Yeah,
up, because it's like
yeah,
none of those guys talk about this. Like,
and I
yeah.
love Monster Hunter, but I think it's time for the series to evolve. And it's like
Mm.
now I know that's probably not going to happen, and the reason it's
Mm.
probably not going to happen is because
Mm.
they have a new audience that came in
Mhm.
at World, right?
Mhm.
So they don't know the 14 or 15 years that me and you had to go through, or all the other vets
Yeah.
had to go through, where we had to
Yeah.
get Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter Martin U, Monster Hunter 2, Monster Hunter 2 U, Monster Hunter 3, Monster Hunter 3 U, and Freedom Unite U, and all this other stuff like that. They didn't understand that. And now it's going to be the same thing. We got Rise. Now we're about to get Rise U, and we got Monster Hunter World. Now we got Monster Hunter Iceborne, which is Monster Hunter World U. So it's like, um, it's just I'm over it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, and I love this series. I'm over it though. Like, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
not touching high rank, because I'm like, it's such a bullshit tier. Like, I've never understood high rank. Once I
It is.
understood what Monster Hunter was, I
Yeah.
never understood it. Like, I was like, I think I was
I agree.
playing like part 3U, and I'm just like, why do I have to go through high rank? Why can't I just go straight to G rank? And I understand, like, it's like, oh, well, you gotta get the armor to at least handle fucking, the low tier G rank monsters or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, I get that, but I just I don't give a fuck. Like, I
Yeah.
liked when Monster Hunter World did, where they're like, hey, if you're coming into Iceborne or G ranked or whatever, we're gonna give you some G rank armor and maybe a G rank weapon to help you out. And I like that
Mhm.
shit. But I just I'm over the formula, because the formula has been perfected, and I'm over it now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
legitimately over it, and I understand this is probably how they had their. This is probably how they have to recoup their losses, or whatever the case may be. They have to
Dev
release it
costs.
twice.
Yeah.
Um, and this is what Capcom does. I mean, they do this with fucking Street Fighter all the time, and it makes fucking sense that they'll do it with one of their most popular franchises. And
Well, dude, this is Capcom's Pokemon.
yeah.
We're in Pokemon territory with Monster Hunter, where
Oh, you're right. When they release
it's
like the third version, that's the best. version
That
of everything.
that part of it, and also the fact that the series isn't changing that fast. It's very slight. Each version of the game that's different is a very slight change. And to be honest with you, as much as I do like Rise, I think this is a good game. I think it's a great game.
Oh
Like
yeah, 100%.
I'm not saying we're not saying it's a bad game. But what I will say is I can't believe this is going to come out of my mouth. However, I actually think World was more ambitious, because what they did with the environments in that game is unmatched in the Monster Hunter series. Like, it's
Yeah,
an incredible
how you can
thing.
use
Like,
the environments, knock down walls, knock down fucking what do
yeah.
you call those things, like
And just the
glaciers?
ambiance in the environments, what's happening. Like, there's creatures floating around everywhere, Like, it
Yeah,
feels alive, like it's a living, breathing environment that you're in. And I'm actually like kind of, this is gonna sound crazy, dude, but I'm actually kind of thinking about like going back to World maybe and like fucking around with it a little bit because we never finished it, first of all. And second of all, like I kind of miss a little bit of that. As much as World was simplistic in its gameplay, I think that atmosphere was really, really, really good, and like Rise is definitely missing that. I mean,
I think
also
Rise
the
is held
monster.
back.
The Yeah,
I'm
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I
No, go
think
ahead.
Rise is held back by the limitations of the hardware.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah,
so I can't really give Rise that flack.
yeah, but they chose
However,
to put it exclusively on this
I
device.
was just about to say
Like,
that. However,
yeah,
they chose exclusively to put it on the Switch, which I
hmm
know was a target at the Japanese audience because that's they're mainly mobile and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and I think it
Um,
was also to smooth over their relationship with Nintendo as well.
oh, okay. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Um, however, like yeah, because it's coming to PC too, so that's like the
mm,
weirdest shit ever. Um,
right.
but I don't know, like I mean, because Japanese people, a lot of Japanese gamers are on PC as well, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I mean that makes sense from their marketing standpoint.
hmm
Um, however, I do like what Rise has brought to the table. So
hmm
I understand this is like the when they always do this with the portable games, like the portable games or whatever are always like the test spots
Yeah.
to see what works and what doesn't work, and then they
hmm
always then the next numbered title game or major release is like they perfected everything. So I
Yeah.
get that. And they didn't really have that chance with World. They just went straight into World and was like, "We're taking a risk, fuck it." And then the risk kind of it did pay off big time for them.
hmm
Um, yeah, but I agree with you 100%. I think World was more ambitious. It's hard for me to go back to World, especially
The
Iceborne's
clutch
because
claw kills it, dude. Yeah.
yeah, the clutch claw, just that
It's
mechanic.
such.
That's the only reason I won't go back to it.
Mhm.
But Rise is in the step right. It's in the step in the right direction for as far as like how to hunt the monsters. I think
Mhm.
I love the way they're doing everything. I just think the way we are hunting the monsters or the way the system is set up needs to evolve. Like I actually liked. I feel like World was a little bit more ambitious as far as like how you hunt monsters because there were no low rank Rajang, there was no low ranked fucking Narcokugas. That was only available in fucking master rank. Those monsters
Yeah.
were only available there.
Mhm.
Um, they
Yeah,
did
they
have
did
high
what we're
rank.
saying a little bit more.
Yeah,
Is that the monster roster was split up a little bit more between the ranks.
yeah,
Like
yep,
there were monsters in low rank, there were monsters rather in high rank that weren't in low rank, and then there were monsters in G rank that were in neither of the two previous ranks.
exactly, yeah.
And that's I like that design a little bit more because Monster Hunter's roster of monsters is absolutely massive at this point, like the catalog they can choose from. And you sent a picture in our text chat earlier of the monsters that are in Rise, like the full list of and it's tiny, dude. It's like what, 30 maybe?
That list is
Like,
actually missing some monsters too. To be honest with you,
okay.
because I didn't see
Yeah.
Rajang in that list, and
Oh,
Rajang is
okay.
on there. Yeah, so
Okay.
that was just like a I sent that to show like some of the weaknesses of the main monsters you're going to be fighting because I know they're going to be playing and stuff like that.
But
Uh,
the roster of monsters in this game, though, to my point, though, is ultimately that like it is small.
yeah,
It's not a big group of monsters. Like, and that is ultimately I think they could have done more with that because what I think happened is they they didn't think they were going to hit their deadline with the game, so they got the game as ready as it could be because it just feels really rushed, some of it, because the village is like, by the time you beat Magnamalo in 5-star, the game rolls credits. Like it's like, what? And then there's just 6-star randomly, and there's no like key quests in 6-star in the village. And then you go through the hub, and there's like kind of a little bit of story, but it's like not much really. It's like barely there. And then so it just feels like the game's like not really fully fleshed out because they're talking about having these like almost monthly releases of new monsters, and depending on how many monsters they get into these patches, it feels to me like they weren't fully ready, and they had a bunch of monsters they were working on pre-launch, but they couldn't get
Yeah.
them ready for launch. So they're like going to have a shitload of patches coming in, adding all these monsters. And to me, it's like, I don't want Monster Hunter to turn into a live service game. Like that's kind of what it feels like they're going for now. And I don't, I'm not into that, dude.
We joked about it, but I think that's what they're going to do with the series.
Yeah.
Especially now that American audiences is like really into it.
Hmm.
And I'm not blaming Western gamers. I'm just saying this is the way companies think now. Um,
How to keep people constantly engaged,
yeah.
you know?
And that's
And
why I
yeah.
am gonna come back next year, because when I took a break off of World and I came back to Iceborne, I was completely blown away by that shit. Like, both of us were. Like, we were like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, this is completely different." And I
Yep.
expect that from that's was the same thing is gonna happen from Rise. But now I understand what you're saying, why I should have to do that. Like, why can't I get that experience right out the gate? And maybe you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe the team I think the Monster Hunter team, honestly, are probably one of the most honest developers on
Hmm.
Capcom's roster. I think they
Yep.
want to do this content for free. They want to do because I think they make a ton of money, to be honest with you. Like, I think they
Yeah.
get a
They
lot
do.
of leverage.
They do.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think there is someone over them who is like, no, you got to do this the way you want to do it. Because I really don't feel like developers think the way business people think. I think
Hmm.
developers, and they're like, yo, I want to get like 50, 60 monsters out the gate. I want to have G rank in there. I want all this stuff. Like, I just want the best experience for the player. And then
Hmm.
like you got some kind of suit coming there and like, okay, I'm about to release 2/3 of the game. You're like,
Hmm.
wait, no, I don't want that. Like, so that's what this
Yeah.
is what I think is going on right now. I don't think it's showing in the games, but it definitely shows like in Rise, because my I can't pronounce that stupid monster's name.
Magnamalo.
Magnamalo
It's a
is
bad
the
name.
weakest monster, it's flagship monster they have ever released in this
Yeah,
game.
it's like Zynoger tier monster, and that's not a strong monster. No offense.
Yeah, it's I
Like,
think Goro Magala was like way better than his monster.
oh, Gormagala. Okay, Gormagala is my favorite. It's probably one of my favorite Monster Hunter monsters. Not gonna lie, I really do believe that. I will say Gormagala is really not that strong either. It's a pretty weak monster, but the fight is a lot more intimidating than anything they've done with Magnamalo.
Because he
So
looks intimidating as fuck.
yeah.
Like,
Well, he doesn't have eyes, dude. Like it's just a scary looking alien fucking dragon. Like it is a kind of a scary looking monster, but it's intimidating. And also it has this unique effect with the frenzy thing that it does. Which Magnamal has like a hellfire or whatever that it uses, which is a unique mechanic as well. But I just think Gormagala is cooler, and there's Shigara Magala, which is a like elder dragon version of the same monster, which I
yeah,
don't know if Magnamalo has that. So it's like, I don't know. I think Gormagala was just better fleshed out. And it also came in I feel like a better package with Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Whereas like, and I think the other thing, Montreal, is I think we've been spoiled, man. Like Generations Ultimate is the most ultimate Monster Hunter game we've ever gotten. Every single monster I think that was ever in the series almost was in that fucking game. It's
yeah,
absolutely bonkers what they put into that game. It's one of the most ridiculous Monster Hunter games we've ever gotten in terms of content and scale. So we're not comparing it to that. I don't expect that
yeah.
in
I
every
don't
Monster
expect
Hunter
that in
game.
every Monster Hunter game, no.
However, I expect more than like 35 monsters.
Well, I just expect some kind of evolution of the system. That's
That
all I
too.
want.
I
I
agree.
just I
Yeah.
and you can give me 35 monsters, but give me G ranked and give me like 12 variants of those 35. I'm not 12 variants, but like let me get
Mm-hmm.
at least half those monsters, half of those 35 monsters. Give me, maybe 16 variants of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Well, dude, try something ambitious too, Like this is what I'm talking about. This is my point about the Pokemon syndrome with this series is that like, dude, like try to tell a real story for once. Like one that's actually good. Because there's lore in this world that's really good. You've told me about it before and it sounds really fucking interesting, but they don't ever do anything with it. The human characters in this game are like they're in a Godzilla movie. Like I don't care about anything they're fucking saying. Like they're the most unimportant part of the experience. Like I just skip their dialogue because I don't give a fucking shit, you know? And like they could make an interesting story with these games, but they don't. And then the other part of it for me is like, okay, why don't you try to make a spin-off game? And I know they've made like Monster Hunter Stories or whatever that was like an RPG that was like a turn-based RPG, but I'm talking like take the core formula and try it, put a spin on it, okay? Make like an open world Monster Hunter game. Like you don't have to make it like fucking Assassin's Creed size. I'm not saying that, but like try it out, like an open world formula where you're actually like tracking monsters, like really tracking monsters. Like you're not given the info you're given that in Rise or World where they just tell you where the monster is. You actually have to like go through an environment and follow tracks and you see like the remnants of fights and them like hunting food and shit. And it's like a real like monster hunter game.
you
Because
know
that
what I
element of
would
the
like?
game is completely gone.
Yeah.
Um,
I would like a Monster Hunter survival game. That's what I would
mm-hmm.
like. Like,
That'd be kind of cool. Like you're
yeah.
not tied to a camp or a town.
Yeah,
You don't
you
really have
just
access to one. And dude, that's a great idea because I was bringing that up to Jet too. Is like the Monster Hunter is a series where settlement building mechanics would actually be really fucking cool in it. Think about that. Like you're right. Start as a survival game. You're by yourself. You have nothing. You have to run around with like a stick and you're fighting like Jaggy. And you
yeah.
you build yourself up from there, and then eventually you coerce a blacksmith to like come to your camp or whatever, and he starts making you really shitty gear. But you build yourself up, and then eventually you start building walls and shit, and you have to like defend your fucking encampment for monsters and stuff. Like, I mean, there's an interesting concept there, like to explore. So it's like they haven't done anything like that, and that's kind of the unfortunate
Well,
part.
I think that's, and I'm trying to be fair to them too, because
Yeah.
unlike Pokemon, they just got really popular in the West
True,
maybe
true,
5 or
true.
6 years ago, to be honest with
Also,
you.
they don't have unlimited resources.
Exactly.
The
So
game I'm pitching is pretty ambitious.
yeah,
So,
so they
yeah.
will have to, it would have to be a couple years from now for them to do that. But
Well, there
yeah, I
would be
mean,
a gap in the release schedule of Monster Hunter, I think, if they did it, or they'd have
yeah,
to make a new team probably. So there would be an investment they'd have to
yeah,
make. But
exactly.
the thing is, though, I don't have sympathy for them. Monster Hunter World sold like 15 or 20 million copies, so fuck off. Like I don't need to hear this. Like, oh god, we can't pay for another team. Like, fucking get out of here, dude. Like, like you guys are crazy rich right now. Like, you guys are making bank on this series. So like invest in it further because to me I think that investment will pay off if you start doing stuff like that, those kind of
Yeah,
side games or something,
yeah.
or just experimentation. So because the series has a lot of potential. It's just like I understand where you're coming from. I think a lot of people could see this series as stale because it kind of is. It's the same thing. You
I
just
think
go
it's
out to
the
a map and you hunt a monster and that's it. Like
Yeah, I think it's the vets who are kind of getting like that. I think the newer people who are they're coming in,
right. It takes a
and
long time to get where we are.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
think it's not going
Yeah.
to happen for another like 15 years for those people. Honestly,
Yeah.
to be honest with you,
Yeah.
I saw a post and a guy was like, he's like, all you do is go out and hunt a monster, but I can't fucking stop. Is this what you guys have been doing for the last couple of years? I'm like, yep. I just got over it. 14. Like I've been playing this game for 14 years, and I just got over it.
Yeah.
Just got over it.
Took me about 10, I think.
So,
Yeah. That's kind of where
so
I'm at.
I don't know, but I mean that's all I've been playing. That's the reason I've kind of slowed down on Rise. But like, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing Apex still. They started a new event yesterday or sorry, Tuesday. the War Games event, and they're doing these rotating events they're doing within this event. So there's different modes basically. So the one they had going was the game. There was actually armor regen. You'd be able to regenerate armor automatically after 8 seconds of not taking damage. So basically, like Halo, you'd regenerate your shields.
Okay.
And that was actually, we played it last night. We played like shit. It was a horrible night. However, the mode was kind of cool. It was an
Okay.
interesting take on the game because it really changed up the way you would fight. You know, you would take some damage and you'd kind of dip, you know, run away and try to recharge your shields rather than staying and like trying to put somebody out. And also I think it made mobility characters a little bit better because they could get away from a fight really easily. So it was that's an interesting mechanic, and there's some other ones they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing one. They were supposed to be doing one that called Second Chance, but there was a bug with it, so they kind of rotated it around to the end of the event. But basically, you get 2 lives every game instead of 1. So if you die, the first time you die, you instantly respawn in the air right where you died, and you can fly to wherever you want within range of that spot. So that's an interesting mechanic, and that happens to everyone on your team. So that'll be a fun mode. There's also another one called Killing Time, where this is the one I want to play more than any other mode that they've talked about. Is that the ring comes in faster when somebody dies. So the faster
Wow.
people die within the game, the faster the ring comes in. So if you go from 60 people to 10 people within 2 minutes, the ring's going to be down to like almost the final ring by the time like when that happens. Like it's going to be super quick, the
Okay.
game. So that one's going to be really fun to see how it plays because it's going to be hectic as fuck, dude. Like landing far outside the ring is probably going to be a really bad strategy. So we'll see how that one plays out. I'll report back when if we play that one. I also been playing more Neo 2. I actually beat that with my brother on Monday, and now we're in post game. So we're in the grinding portion of the game, and I'm definitely getting a little crispy on this game. I'm kind of getting a little burnt on it, and my brother's like completely obsessed. But I've played through this game like 3 times now in the last 2 months, and I'm just like, it's like sometimes it's just too much, like you kind of get you get hit. So I'm trying to like kind of take a little bit of a break from it somewhat. But I'm still gonna keep playing it. I do want to play through like some of the end game stuff too, because I never really did that with Neo 1. So I really do want to experience what like post game is like in this game. But so I'll let you guys know how that goes. And I also started playing randomly. So I uninstalled Fire Emblem Heroes over the weekend again, and so I'm done with that now. And I was looking for something to kind of fill the void of my phone, and I had Final Fantasy Tactics downloaded onto my phone, and I just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna boot it up and try it. And now I want to play Final Fantasy Tactics, but I don't want to do it on my phone. Because I'll be honest with you guys, this is not the platform to play this game on. It's like it runs well and it's not bad. It's just using a touchscreen to play this game kind of sucks. Like there's a lot of pressing you have to do, and there's a lot of button inputs, and it's just like it's not really that engaging as a phone game. Like it just doesn't work very well, and frankly the game's like too slow. Like it takes too long to do shit on your phone, like because so many things need to be done, and it's like there's a lot of pressing, and it's just so it's just not super engaging for me. So I'm actually thinking of just pulling my Vita out and charging that bad boy up, downloading Final Fantasy Tactics, because I actually do own that game on Vita. So downloading that and playing that, I might start doing that here in the next week or two, because I haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics in a long fucking time, actually, and it is a really 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 great tactics game. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing. Montreal, let
Yes,
us
sir.
jump into the news. We got some good news. We got some good stories this week. However, I will say, I'm going to warn you guys, it's very Sony centric. Sony's had another bad week. It just does not end. They cannot catch a break, and they're doing it to themselves. But hey, we got to talk about it, like because we've been talking about Sony for weeks now, and I am very concerned about them at this point. So Bloomberg's Jason Schreier released a report this past week, actually last Friday, saying the headline is, quote, Sony's obsession with blockbusters is stirring unrest within the PlayStation empire. So this article is almost like 3 different articles in one, because he talks about a bunch of different things happening in Sony. So we're going to focus on each one, I think, individually first. So let's start with the visual arts service group within Sony. So this is a team that's within, I think they're within the Sony San Diego team, which is the team that makes the show. And they are a support team for Sony's first party studios. So they do a lot of touch up work on animations, models, things like that. And they were getting tired of being that team, and they wanted to make their own game. And there was a person named Michael Mumbauer, who was a director of this team, and he decided to get a group of developers together, about 30, and it wasn't just from the visual arts service group either. He got them from some other teams as well, some other studios, some people who wanted to do something different. So they were trying to form their own team, basically, and they wanted to, I think, eventually become their own first-party studio, separated from San Diego, to start making games. But what they kind of were doing, they were small, so they were really trying. They weren't trying to make a new game. They decided they wanted to remake something. And their first pitch was for the first Uncharted game, to remake the first Uncharted game. And to be honest, the first Uncharted game is actually pretty rough around the edges. It doesn't hold up very well. So remaking that game, I think, is a very legitimate enterprise. As one of Naughty Dog's first PlayStation 3 game, I think it would have been worthwhile. There's some merit to remaking that game. But what ended up happening is that Herman Holst, who is this is kind of weird. He kind of comes out of left field here, because he's the European head of studios, I think, in Europe, or I think so. Or actually, no, he is the head of Worldwide Studios.
He's the head of Worldwide
That's right.
Studios. Yeah.
Yeah, no. He's the head of Worldwide Studios. I'm misremembering. He comes from Guerrilla, who is a European studio.
Yep.
That's what's throwing me off there. So yeah, he's the head of Worldwide Studios. He comes in and basically tells this team, look, this is too expensive. We don't want you to do this. And he puts the kibosh on that. But so they end up instead landing on a remake for The Last of Us on PlayStation 5. And this was supposed to be, originally was supposed to be done in tandem with the release of The Last of Us 2. And they were going to package the games together and sell them together on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. And unfortunately, that did not ultimately work out. They have at this point disbanded, but the game, though, The Last of Us Remake, still exists. And it was eventually given to Sony Bend, the studio that made Days Gone and made Uncharted: The Golden Abyss on the Vita and the old Siphon Filter games. They ended up getting this game, and then they pitched a sequel to Days Gone 2. And that was turned down by Sony. It was shot down. They didn't greenlight it. So, Montrell, let's stop here for a second and just discuss. So, what did you think about the visual arts service group part of the story? The 30 developers kind of wanted to make their own thing. Because the idea that they landed on a remake of The Last of Us and that was greenlit. I mean, this is the most bizarre part of the story to me. But what are your feelings on that?
To be honest with you, I don't really have too many feelings on that portion of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because they wanted to make a remake of the game.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, for that part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it kind of ties in because I don't want to flow in too far. Because I mean, I'm really upset about the whole thing as a whole.
Yeah,
the story as a whole.
Yeah. Well, then let's go to Ben. Let's go to the Bend part, right?
Okay,
where they ended up taking over this Last of Us remake, and then their Days Gone 2 game was shot down. How do you feel about that? Days Gone 2 getting shot down?
I think that was a blunder. I think they should have greenlit that. Even though
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't really play Days
Hmm.
Gone, and
Neither of us did.
it didn't look appealing to me.
Hmm.
It's still sold super well, especially on um especially when the PS5 came out. It sold really well because it ran flawlessly on the PS5 from what I heard. And on top
Hmm.
of that, it came out on PC and everyone on PC loved it as well. So
Yeah.
it did make a lot of money back and it was actually a hit. It was Sony
It
considered it a
wasn't
hit.
critically a hit though. It
It wasn't
was
critically a
panned
hit.
pretty hard, but the fan base for this game though definitely likes Days Gone. So there's an audience there.
Yeah, so for them to turn that down for Uncharted, or they're making Uncharted, right?
Yeah, that's the other part of the story is that they're also making a new Uncharted game.
Okay. So like this is my whole problem with the whole thing, right? I think Sony is becoming Microsoft in regards to
Mm. Hmm.
now we're trying to make a Halo 100. We don't need a Halo 100. We don't need a Gears of War 100. We don't need, and like those are we criticize Microsoft for the same shit. Like make other games,
Hmm.
or if you're gonna make games within those franchises, make them different genres. Like we already know Halo tried to do the Halo Wars thing, the RTS thing, but they could have went with the MOBA or something like that, right? There's a
Hmm.
lot of things they could have did with Halo, and there's a lot of things they could have did with Gears of War. And I feel like with Uncharted, it is kind of packed. And they did kind of write themselves into the corner where the way the world is in Uncharted, there really isn't too
Hmm.
much they can do with that genre and that series, in my opinion. But like maybe what was the other game? Last of Us, right? There could be a survival game like that's
Hmm.
prime for like in with the mechanics that you have in Last of Us
Hmm.
2, the
Yeah.
combat and whatever. Like that's prime for a survival game. Like I think that would be bigger if they made a pure survival game out of that game. I think that
Well,
shit can be bigger than Arc. But my problem is,
to be fair, I do want to point out that Ben was also working on the factions multiplayer game for The Last of Us.
yeah,
That and they were working on that in tandem with Naughty Dog, and we don't know what that is yet. So it's a multiplayer only game, we know, but we don't know what it entails. So
okay,
it could be what you're talking about. It's
okay. So
possible.
I'll leave that alone then. But I'm
Yeah,
upset that we don't need another fucking Last of Us remake. And
yeah.
everyone, from the biggest Sony fans all the way down to the haters, everyone said we don't need another one. You already remastered this game, and that remaster is backwards compatible on the PS5. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it got an upgrade too. I think so. We don't need this anymore. Like the story was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I think the only thing they can do is maybe update the combat for it to be
Yeah,
Last of
for
Us
sure.
2
The
combat.
idea is that they're going to make the game look like and play like The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay, I mean that's cool. It's not needed,
Yeah,
but I don't think we need a whole brand new fucking game for that shit. In my
agreed. I
opinion,
agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
I don't think we need to cancel or not green light Days Gone 2 for this. Like this could have been like a 30, maybe 100-man development project on the
Hmm.
side, and that could have
Hmm.
came out as a patch. Now, what I
Yeah.
think they're gonna do, to be honest with you, I think they're gonna totally rewrite The Last of Us 1 because they're calling it a remake, not
No
a remaster.
way, dude. That would
I
be
think they are,
fucking
and the
nuts.
reason why I think they're gonna do that is because I think they're gonna release it day and date with The Last of Us
Television show.
television show, and I think they're going to rewrite some shit in the television show, and they're expecting that show to garner more audience, and people are going to want to play The Last of Us. They're like, what is this title? And they're going to go back and
Mm,
they're going to play The Last of Us.
mm.
So what I think they're going to do is, I think they're going to get the actor, whoever's playing Joel, he's going to be the new face of Joel, and they're pretty much going to do a Spider-Man remastered, right? Where they
Mm.
completely they made the new Peter look like fucking Tom Holland.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're going to do that, and
Hmm.
I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. I think they're going to redo the way they have Ellie look. Not too much though, because she does look like an older version of herself in Last of Us
Hmm.
2, but she doesn't look like um I can't Ethan Page because I know
Ellen
that
Page. Oh, or Elliot Page. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think her name's Ethan now, or his
No,
name.
Elliot.
Yeah,
Elliot.
Elliot. I'm sorry, Elliot
Yep.
Page. Um,
Yep.
so, uh, but I think they're gonna try to do some stuff with that too. But I don't know, man. I feel really indifferent about it. As far as I feel really turned off by it because this is such
Yeah.
an American move as far as like the way
It is. It's almost
American
like
companies.
Hollywood move,
Yeah,
like
it's
afraid to do something different.
exactly. I think we talked about it off camera or off camera, off mic.
Yeah.
That they're trying to get their holy shit, doggy is up to 28 cents, guys. Get some doggy fucking bitcoins,
Dogecoin?
Dogecoins, some doggy
Yeah, give me
Dogecoins,
that. Give me
whatever.
that Dogecoin. Let's go.
Yeah, man. It's up
Yeah.
to 28 cents now. Holy
Hmm.
fuck, that's a lot. I should have bought some.
I should have
Um,
bought some. Damn.
yeah,
Wasn't it like a cent at some point?
yeah, it was.
Ah, Jesus.
I think I'm gonna buy some now before it hits $1. But anyway,
Yeah. Fucking.
um, I think yeah, just canceling everything for Sony is actually going towards their studios now. I think they're using this as a platform to plateau themselves back up into like, movies and everything of that nature. I mean, their movie studios are doing well, but I think they really want to
Mm,
focus on TV.
mm,
And
mm-hmm.
I think they're using The Last of Us as
Bench.
their bench. Yeah.
Jumping off point. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. They're using that as this foundation. I
Ugh.
mean, because we always joke that The Last of Us is a movie. Like, oh, you're playing an interactive
It is.
movie.
I mean, Naughty Dog's games are movies. They're
Yeah,
movies that you can play. That's
yeah,
what they are. I mean, the Uncharted movies are literally Indiana Jones movies. Like,
yeah. And I mean,
it's
we
just you
always
can play
joke
them when you
about
play it.
that. And I think they're actually the executives rather are actually looking at it as like we have two series that we can turn into TV shows, and TV shows right now are doing way better than movies. So it just makes sense. We can put it on some kind of streaming network. We can put it on this is what I think their ultimate plan is, and this is like
Hmm.
some fucking foil tin hat conspiracy shit, but
Hmm.
business wise, right? I think they're
Yeah.
going to turn a lot of their series into TV shows. So you're going
Well,
to have
dude,
like
they're
a
already doing a Twisted Metal show.
yeah. So
That's confirmed. I think there's another I think there's another series they're doing a show with too.
yeah,
I can't remember what it is off the top of my head because we haven't really been reporting on these things because we don't care.
yeah.
Like it's whatever. I don't care about these video game shows, but
So I think they're going to
yeah.
do that, and they already bought Crunchyroll. So what I think they're going to do is
Mm,
make a Sony stream network. And I think that's
mm,
their ultimate goal is to make a Sony stream network. First, they're gonna put it on like Netflix or Hulu, whoever gives them the deals or whatever. And then they're
yeah.
gonna do like Disney once they have enough shows where they can just be like, we're gonna make our own fucking stream service. Fuck you, Netflix. And that's what they're gonna do. And I think they're gonna either encompass Crunchyroll into it, or they're gonna be like, Crunchyroll is now the Sony stream service.
Mm,
And they may try to implement PlayStation Now into it. I can probably see that as well.
yeah.
But I think this is like their biggest goal, and uh,
Yeah.
this is just a jumping off point. I mean, we'll see in like 5 years what happens, but
Mm,
I think right now a lot of gamers are not going to be happy with where they're going.
yeah.
This is just a prediction, but like as of right now, in the immediate 2 to 3 years, we're still going to get some good games from studios, from Sony Studios. No doubt about that. I'm never doubting that at all.
Hmm.
Um, but I think after the third year of these consoles, we're gonna start seeing some repetitive shit. Like we're not gonna get a Ratchet and Clank. We're not gonna get a Sly Cooper isk. We're not gonna get those titles that we used to. Like I don't want those titles. I want new stuff, right? But we're
Hmm.
not gonna get that. We're not gonna get. We're just gonna get the
New
same.
IPs, right?
Yeah, we're just gonna get the same. Stuff
Which is
regurgitated.
ironic given that they did shoot down Days Gone too. But that isn't a franchise though that's like foundational for them right now.
Well, they're already
So
greenlighting the fucking Ghost of Tsushima movie. Like,
yeah.
why?
Oh, that's the other one that I was thinking of. That's right, the Ghost of Tsushima movie. So Montreal, there's a lot to unpack there than what you just said. So I'm gonna start. There's a lot of merit to a lot of things that you just said. I'm gonna
Okay.
start with the Last of Us remake. Let's start there.
Okay.
There is absolutely zero reason to remake this game. None whatsoever. Now, Sony, I think, kept this project alive because they did see the merit in it from a financial standpoint. They think they can make money off this again.
Mhm.
Now, there is a sliminess factor here that they are triple dipping with this game, because not only did they release it in 2013, which is fine, great, you released the game, excellent. Then the next year, when after PlayStation 4 came out, they ported it to PlayStation 4 and released it again for $60. Okay, I can
It
give you
was
that.
$60.
It was $60. Yeah,
I
I
bought
don't
it at
think it was
like
60 for
30.
that long. I don't think it was 60 for that long, but
Okay,
it
yeah,
was sixty
I bought it
dollars.
at like 30 or
Um,
$20.
but so okay, you released it a second time. I get it. The new console, this game is really popular. They saw a real need, and Naughty Dog needed the development time on the new console too. So there's some value there, right? Now we're at the point though now with this third iteration of this game that is going to be a remake. That's what the term Jason used here is a remake. Is that what are you getting out of remaking this game? Because the only way I can see them like marketing this in a way that's going to appeal to people that played The Last of Us, because The Last of Us is only 8 years old. It's not even 8 years old yet. So most people who've heard of The Last of Us and have had a PlayStation console for the last 8 years or more have played The Last of Us probably. And most people, I'm going to bet you, that played The Last of Us 2 probably went back and played The Last of Us 1, because they wanted to see the story if they hadn't already played it. So there's a huge group of people that have already played this game. And if this is why I think there's a key point you made about them changing the story that I actually, while it doesn't make sense because The Last of Us' story is good, I think there's some merit to your idea, because how else are they going to market this game to people, Because if they do upgrade the graphics to Last of Us 2 levels and the gameplay to Last of Us 2 levels, and then the story is completely like exactly the same, what is the appeal? Because no offense to Naughty Dog, but The Last of Us' gameplay is not that good. Like, it's not good enough to the point that I'm going to go buy that game and play it again. Like, I
Well, I
have
think part two's
right now,
gameplay is really good, and
it is, but it's not good enough that I want to play through a story I already played through 7 years ago,
yeah.
Like, I don't, I'm not
So
that into this series.
what happened? This just popped into my head. I didn't mean to cut you off, but so
Mm-hmm. No, go for it.
another game did this before, and it wasn't really
Mm,
received well because it broke the game. And I think this is what's going to happen in The Last of Us, the remake, unless they fully remake the game. So Metal Gear did this, where they had Metal Gear Solid, and then obviously Sons of Liberty came out.
oh,
Then
yeah.
they've remade Metal Gear Solid with Sons of Liberty engine, and like the graphics were
What was it? Twin
updated.
Snakes?
Twin
That's the
Snakes,
GameCube
exactly.
game,
Yep.
right?
The graphics were
Yep.
updated. They had first person view, like how you can do everything you can do in Sons of Liberty, and it kind of made the game super fucking easy. And they rewrote some stuff, and it just didn't
Hmm.
have the same charm uh as Metal Gear
Yeah.
Solid. The first one did. It didn't have that same, because Metal Gear Solid was really serious.
Yep.
Sons of Liberty did go a little bit. It was still serious, but it did have a little bit of like of a comedic factor to it as well, and they kind of rewrote that into Twin Snakes. You can tell. So that game actually isn't. I don't want to say well received, but there's a lot of mixed feelings on that, because that was a lot of people's first Metal Gear. They got Twin Snakes, and that was their first
Hmm.
Metal Gear. But then there's a lot of people who already played Metal Gear from like the
Yeah.
PS1. They're like,
Hmm.
I don't know about this, Chief. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'm really interested in seeing what they're gonna do with this remake, because it could go either way. Like, I don't
Hmm.
think there is. I mean, obviously, we already know that they shouldn't be doing it, but I'm really curious to see how the reception is going to be and how they're going to actually handle the remake itself, as far as level design and everything, because you have to take that into account, that everything, the way the levels were designed for the mechanics that the first game had.
The original game, right? So are
Yeah,
they going to remake levels? Are they going to have different layouts? Are
they're
the
going to have
events going to
to.
happen in different orders? Like, I that's what I'm saying. I agree with you. I do think they're gonna fuck with the game. Like, I think they will, and I don't think that's a good idea, because the game is good as it is.
Yeah, it is.
The story is great as it is. I don't really want them to fuck with it. I don't see much of a need for it either, and I think a lot of the industry feels the same way. I mean, this news came out, and I didn't really see very many people defending this.
Yeah,
Like
there's
looking forward to this. Um, yeah,
yeah,
go
there are
ahead.
only like hardcore people like defending this, and that
Yeah,
was few and far between. But a lot of people are like a lot of people that are really Sony centric or like diehard Sony
hmm
fans. A lot of them are just like, yeah, this is not a good look. This doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this? We already have the remastered
yeah,
version that's available on the
hmm
PS5 right now. Why would you do a remake? And the game's not even, to be honest, the main game itself is not even 10 years old yet. So
it
it just
isn't.
it
It's
doesn't
it's
make any
it's
sense.
not even 8. It's
Yeah.
crazy, dude. Like, so yeah. I mean, let's keep going, I guess,
Okay.
through the
Yeah.
rest of the story here. And I do want to get back to your point about them transitioning into television and stuff. I do want to talk about that briefly, but I want to keep us going on the story real quick. So, to continue though, so Ben's working on this. They're working on factions. They get saddled with this remake. Days Gone 2 gets shot down, and then they're also assigned to work on a new Uncharted game with supervision from Naughty Dog. And this is the part of the story where Jason says that a bunch of employees within Bend started to worry that they might get absorbed into Naughty Dog, like literally become Naughty Dog North or something like that. Because they're working on Naughty Dog IPs, and they're all being supervised by Naughty Dog. They have no autonomy whatsoever. Um, so Jason did say that actually, as recently as within the last month, they actually put their foot down, um, and asked to be taken off of um, the Last of Us remake, and Sony actually agreed to the request and are letting them make a new game, a new franchise. So a new
Okay.
IP. So
Okay.
Ben, right now, it looks like things are looking better for them at least. So I think they're still working on the Uncharted game. They still have that. Actually, no, that was the project they were taken off of. Was also the Uncharted project. So I
Okay.
think they were working on factions still, but the rest of it. So now they're working on a new game. So it looks like Naughty Dog took the Uncharted project and the remake of The Last of Us, and this is where things get weird. That's the status quo right now. And I want to ask you a question here. Like, dude, to me, this is a huge regression for Naughty Dog. You know, they're working on a remake of a game they made 8 years ago that they released 8 years ago, and they're working on a new Uncharted project for a franchise that they had kind of left behind in 2015 when they released Uncharted 4. That was it. That was supposed to be the end of it for them. And now they're back there working on that again, and it's like, and then they might have another project in the works after The Last of Us 2 as well. So they got a lot on their plate right now, but also it's just like, I mean, how do you feel about all that? Like they're kind of rehashing IPs now.
Yeah. Um it's weird how I feel about that. So I know a lot of the mid-tier workers and maybe some of the higher ups at a Naughty Dog don't really want to do that, or maybe they do. I don't know. I think the one guy, I can't remember his name, but like the studio head.
Neil
Uh,
Druckmann?
yeah, I think he really wants to do this. I think he's just like soaking it in. Like that's what
Yeah.
I think. I think he's really. I
Yeah.
think this is like, and
I
this
can
is
see
going to
that.
sound so stupid, or so I don't know what the word is, but I think it's like a power trip for him. Like it's like he's just soaking it all in, man. He made two great franchises, and now he doesn't really have to do anything. He's like he can like chill.
Yeah.
Or he can be like Cliffy, who wanted to make new franchises where he had to literally leave his studio just to do that. He had to sell the studio just to make a new
Yeah.
franchise and everything like that. So
hmm
we don't know at this point, but from the way he tweets and the way he conducts himself in interviews and things of that nature, I think this is his decision. And
I think so too.
I don't think the team really had a choice. I think it was
Well, yeah.
I think it was like a, I don't want to say dictatorship decision, but it was like, this is
hmm
my way. Like this is what we're gonna do now.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest, dude. The article made it sound like Naughty Dog has a lot of pull within the first party studios, which means to me, I think anything that they're doing, they decided to do on their own,
Yeah,
like
and
the
that was
studio
my
leadership.
second point too. Yep, yep.
Yeah, so that's the thing that concerns me here, though, is there just seems to be like a dichotomy between some of the studios, where like Naughty Dog gets to basically take over Bend and make them do a bunch of shit for them, but Bend makes a successful game in Days Gone and doesn't get to make their own game until they get fed up after like a year and a half of working, or 2 years even of working on this shit, and they're like, no, fuck this, we want to make our own game. And they just got lucky that Sony said yes, whereas you've got Media Molecule making fucking Dreams, a game that literally is like no one's fucking playing, dude. And there's nothing going on there. Like, they're okay, so it's kind of weird what's going on with the first party to me right now. Like, it's like not everybody's equal.
Well, I made a
It,
joke. I made a joke saying I can't wait for
mhm.
Insomniac Games to make a fucking Uncharted game.
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, I hope we'll never get to that point, but
I'm just saying. I think there's
I
gonna come to a point where Sony is gonna have to choose between Insomniac or Naughty Dog, and I think they're gonna choose Naughty Dog. I think that's coming. I think
mm,
I think Insomniac is they're okay. They're in the clear right now because they made Spider Man. Or no, did they make Spider Man? They did make Spider
they
Man,
did
right? And
Spider-Man, Ratchet and Clank. I mean, yeah,
oh, and what's the other
yeah,
studio I'm thinking about? Sucker Punch. They made
yeah, Sucker Punch, Ghost of
Ghost of
Tsushima.
Tsushima. I think Sucker Punch is one of those studios that just got fucking lucky because I think they're going to be. I think they're only a tier above Ben right now.
I was gonna say that. I think Insomniac's fine. Insomniac is, I think, is Sony's best studio, personally. I think they're fine. They're not, I don't think they're in any risk. I do think Sucker Punch is the one that is definitely the most interesting studio, because Ghost of Tsushima, they are lucky that Ghost of Tsushima was as big of a hit as it was, because they could easily
Yeah.
have been absorbed into Naughty Dog. Because think about it, since before Ghost of Tsushima, their last game was like infamous Second Son, wasn't it?
Yep.
And that game was not well received at all. People did not like that game. And they hadn't made a game since then. That was like 8 years ago.
I think they
And at
just
the
went
time
straight
of,
into working on Ghost of Tsushima. I
they
think.
did, and it took them forever to make the game. So if it hadn't worked out, they would have been in the same position Ben was in, because Ben, it hadn't made a game since like Golden Abyss, I think, in 2012. That was the last game they had actually released. And so it had been 7 years between games, when Days Gone came out. And that game wasn't as well received. It did sell pretty well, but it wasn't a critical darling. So they ended up being the ones relegated to support status. But it's fucked up because they're not a bad studio.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think they deserve that. And to be honest, like, I don't like that. I really don't like that Sony's like kind of hung up on this. Like, they want an Uncharted game. They want this Last of Us remake. And I'm gonna bet you Naughty Dog's probably working on The Last of Us Part 3 as well. That would be my guess with them. And to me, that it's just like, Naughty Dog's so good as a studio. I know their games are like, we do bag on their games sometimes, but at the same time, they make great games, and I would love to see them branch out into something new. And
Yeah.
we're not going to get that probably for this entire generation. And that
Yeah. I
sucks.
mean, I would like to see them take another crack at like Crash Bandicoot or something of that nature, like another
Yeah.
fun
Go into a
game.
different genre,
Yeah.
like make like a fucking, I don't know, like an RPG or something, something, or like a sci-fi game. I would be really intrigued by something like that. So I
I
don't know.
think
This article really made me. I'm not feeling good about Sony right now. I'm
yeah,
just
and I
not.
think a lot of people are. I think this showed a lot of people that they can be absorbed into studios. Like I think the big three, Santa Monica, Insomniac, and Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog. Yeah.
They're the big three, but I think people under them like Ben, Sucker Punch, what's another one? Fuck,
Media Molecule.
Media Molecule. Like these B tier studio. I hate calling them B tier because I don't really think they're B tier. But like as far as the
They're on a
hierarchy,
lower level than the big boys though. They
yeah. So
are.
like the hierarchy.
Gorilla maybe. Gorilla's kind of in between though
I think
on the
Gorilla
two
has leverage
tiers.
because of what's his face.
Yeah.
Um,
Herman Hulst.
yeah,
Yeah,
Homer
he's
Host.
probably got a soft spot for him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think they're
Right.
okay.
Well,
They're
and
like
Horizon's big too, to be
yeah,
fair.
but I put them in like the wild card factor, right? They're not the big three.
Yeah,
They're
they're
just
in the middle of the two tiers we're talking about. They're
yeah,
not as good as those three studios, but they're also not like on that lower end either.
yeah.
So
I just think a lot of studios now, even like newer companies looking to work with Sony, they're going to be on edge now. Like Sony doesn't have that. They're losing that image that Microsoft is trying to get. Like, hey guys, we love our studios. Like now they're like, I think people are going to be looking at them side eye like, okay,
well, dude, like they had a reputation in the PS4 generation of being a company that they wouldn't necessarily let you work on anything you wanted, but you had relative creative freedom, you know.
yeah,
If you pitched something that they thought was going to be good and there was some risk to it, they'd let you do it because they believed in their studios. Now it's starting to feel like this article paints a picture of a Sony that is really averse to risk, and they want safe projects that are going to be guaranteed to make them money. And this is where we get into I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks now, but this is continuing this trend of talking about Sony's kind of position as a company relative to Microsoft. Is that this is where Microsoft has a huge advantage, you know. And this is why what you're talking about them trying to take that image of being the one who's lenient. That's why they're making games like fucking Everwild or Grounded or fucking what was the one Ninja Theory made that shut down? I can't remember. But like they are at least letting their studios take some risks, you know. And
yeah,
whether we agree or not, they're at least trying and they're giving their teams some leeway to try things. And Sony, on the other hand, is not. And the thing is, though, is that Microsoft can afford to do that forever because they don't care. They're not, their games business is not their primary income. So if their games business fails, whatever, dude, what do they give a shit? They have Windows and Azure and all this other shit and Office 365 and all these other things that really make them money. You know, that's what, like they bought Bethesda and the next quarter they made back all that they made that money back in profit twice over, you know, in the next quarter. You know, they're crazy. They're a fucking ridiculously huge company. So this is where Sony's like really, I think this is where Jim Ryan, I think, is going to fail Sony because his lack of vision is eventually going to come back and bite them. Because Microsoft is eventually, I think, going to figure this shit out and start putting out really good games with their studios. And whenever that does happen, Sony's lost their advantage, you know, at that point. What would, like, if they're making hits, they have 30 to 35 studios that are making games at least on par or close to on par with Sony's, and they're coming out at twice the rate. I mean, at a certain point, it's just going to be better to be on Xbox, you know? And you have Game Pass on top of that too, where you get all these games for $10 or $15 a month, you know, included with the console. It's like at a certain point, like Sony's just got nothing, dude. You know, they got their little games, but I mean, I'm not gonna be wanting to play The Last of Us Part 8. You know, like I don't fucking like I don't want that many Last of Us games. You know, I don't want to play Uncharted 6 or 7. You know,
yeah,
like I'm kind of done with Uncharted. You know, I want to see different stuff. That's what Sony's been excelling at the last 10 to 15 years. You know, is bringing out new IPs and trying new things, and they're going now that they're going away from that. I just think they're giving up what made them unique and made them a really appealing console manufacturer, you know. And I don't know, I'm concerned. I'm at the point where I really want an Xbox Series X because I want to be prepared for the day where Microsoft actually starts doing shit well, you know.
yeah,
I want to be able to play their games. You know, they are the moves they're making and everything they're doing is convincing me that they are going to be a worthwhile console to own. You know, their console is going to be worthwhile. So yeah, it's not great right now. I because yeah, Sony can't afford to be on par with Microsoft in terms of console sales. If that happens, it's a disaster. Because when that happened in the PS3 generation, like they almost went bankrupt. You know.
yeah. I remember that.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So I don't know. It's It's not a great situation, man. And yeah, your point about the TV and movies and stuff, I think that is a huge, huge blunder on on their part. I really think this like obsession with pushing that is going to be a really big miss. Because no offense to them, like a Last of Us television show, even being done by HBO, um, if it's telling the first game story over again, I don't know how compelling that's really going to be. You
They
know?
if they're gonna do a Last of Us TV show, they need to. Well, they are. I would say they need to do a different perspective, but they already confirmed that these people are gonna be, Ellie and
Yep.
Joel. So
Yep. Pretty
it would
much.
have been
So,
cool to be like, oh, here's a cameo appearance, like you're doing a different
mhm,
camp or something like that, and we see Ellie and Joel here and there. But like,
mhm.
um, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that either. Just retelling the same story. I mean, I guess, man, but it is what it is.
Yeah. All right, Montreal, let's move on. We've been talking about that for a while. So
Yeah.
let's move forward. We got more Sony centric stories, though. So there was an AMA on the Vita subreddit last week by a former Sony employee, and this was moderator approved on this Reddit. And they claim that they can confirm that he worked at this person worked at Sony, whoever this is. So Montreal, we looked through this a little bit before the show. And there are a lot of interesting tidbits on here, and this is a very Vita centric post. Most of the questions are around Vita, but Montreal, what do you want to focus on here? I guess in
My
this
biggest
thread.
one was if we scroll down, and we talked about this before previously,
Hmm.
and I don't want to sound like SJW or I don't know what they call them, the opposite of SJWs. But we did talk about Sony censorship and everything of that nature. And I thought it was
Yep.
really weird. I thought it was pretty cool that someone actually brought that up and how that pertained to the Vita because the Vita has obviously a lot of Japanese titles on it and a lot of visual novel stuff. Like once again, I'm not into that stuff, but I'm not gonna hate on someone who is into that stuff.
Hmm.
And this guy pretty much confirmed that Sony made moves to where, starting with like the PS4, or it started with like halfway through the PS3 actually, but the PS4 like kind of solidified it, where Sony closed down studios in Japan and when the PS5 came out, the X being the confirmation button, which is a huge deal. It may not seem like a huge deal if you're not a gamer, um, because X has always been a confirmation button over here in America, or in the West rather, and
Yeah.
Circle has been the confirmation in Japan. And a lot of games that came out that were localized to us, Circle was always a confirmation, and it kind of threw us off for a bit. Like it was just
Hmm.
it was just a little thing that you had to be a gamer, one of those
Yeah.
inside things.
Berwick Saga was like that actually.
Really? Okay.
Circle was confirmation to that game. Yeah, it was such a throwback for me. It was like, oh God, I remember games
Yeah.
used to be like this. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
but he pretty much confirmed it that, Sony is now a Western based company. Like their
Yeah, they
headquarters is
care so little about Japan that they don't care about that little thing, that what you would think is a little thing, right? The confirmation button being a cross or circle. They don't care. They want it to be uniform, and they just nixed the Japanese element of it. So circle is no longer confirmed on PlayStation 5. And that was this person says basically their ultimate fuck you to that market.
yeah.
That they don't care anymore.
But it also explains a lot of other moves that Sony was making, the censorship of their stores, the taking down of stuff on their stores and everything of that nature.
Yeah. Hmm.
And as we know, we are very um prone to we're very turned off by like sexual content in games and everything of that nature. The West is rather. So when that happened like a couple of years ago, and I remember me and you were talking
Hmm.
about it, and we saw the writing on the wall. But this pretty much just confirmed that, which I don't know where they're gonna go from here. I think now we see Nintendo as that primary Japanese device for like every Japanese need now. So I don't know. In my
Hmm.
opinion, I think that's a huge loss. But I guess numbers wise, America is the bigger audience, so that's a
Yeah.
win on their part. So I don't know how you
But
feel
yeah,
about that.
I mean, the last few years, it's, I mean, frankly, I mean, we're getting close to a decade now where there's a lot of decision making that it's been obvious that something was happening within Sony. and the North American side of the company was trying to kind of take control. And there are a lot of been a lot of reporting about this over the years, but this person does mention that too, that there was kind of a culture war happening, and ultimately, Sony NA won. Sony North America won that culture war, and because I mean, I've pointed to things in the past, like the fact that Sony allocated all of their launch units for PlayStation 4 to North America. That was one of the first red flags that things were changing over there. They would have never fucking done that back like 10 years prior to that. But here we are, and they made the right decision ultimately. I mean, NA is their most important market, but the fact that they didn't even launch in Japan the same day it's pretty nuts for a Japanese company, a company that was, primarily based in Japan and was, that was their market, dude, and then later on, like you were talking about with the visual novel stuff, the censorship that started to happen on the Vita and then even into the PlayStation 4, just like that is a North American thing,
Yeah.
that's something that just reeks of USA values. Those are the
Hmm.
kind of things that we would do, is censor those kind of games. So there's been a lot of flags over the years that NA was taken over, and we're at the point now that it's done pretty much. They are they are the ones running the show. And to be honest, I think that is why Sony might be losing some of their charm as a company, because US businesses are, I mean, all businesses want to make money, but I think there's a specific degree to which United States businesses want to make money that is just, it's at the expense of everything else. It doesn't matter what it is. They will kill whatever they need to in order to make as much money as they can. So this AMA, though, there were other things that came out of this, is that he did talk about the proprietary memory
I
cards
was just about to
on the
mention that
Vita.
too. Yeah.
And he said that it was primarily because of the security. They were worried about security on the Vita because the PSP was so easily hacked, and that was such a big part of that console's narrative, that handheld's narrative. They didn't want that to happen with the Vita. And then the second thing is that the PlayStation Network hack happened literally a year prior to the Vita coming out. So
Okay.
Sony was really at a point in time with this where they were really cognizant of security and they were being extremely paranoid. So that's kind of why the proprietary memory cards happened. And to be honest, like that's the thing that probably tanked the console though, or tanked the handheld, is that those were so fucking expensive.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the craziest thing about it. And then he also mentioned basically why Sony like abandoned the console was obviously it wasn't doing well. And then he said though, as early as like 2012 2013, they were already thinking about giving it up because it wasn't doing very well. And then they tried these half-hearted measures like PlayStation TV, and then some other initiatives pushing some more. So there were some other games that they were making that they tried to push, but they didn't really like go all the way with it. And they didn't do well, so at that point they just said fuck it and let it go. And then around 2014 2015, the handheld did get cracked by hackers. Eventually the firmware got cracked, and that was the moment where Sony was just like, okay, we're done with this thing, we need to kill it. Like they wanted to kill Vita basically at that point. Which leads us to today where they're shutting the store down basically 9 years after
Insane.
the device came out. So there's a lot of interesting tidbits in this article. I really recommend it for people, or in this AMA. There's more though. I guess we can talk about. I mean, Montreal, are there any other things that you want to bring up?
Uh, I mean, I think those are the biggest ones for me. The one you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, and the proprietary memory, and
Yeah.
like the culture war that was happening in Sony, and how the Vita played a role in that. Because I think that was like one of the biggest things, killing the Vita, in my opinion. Like the lack of games on
Mm-hmm.
it, um, and the fact that they only sold 17 million units.
Yeah, he said last he heard 17 million. That's how many Vitas is sold. That is a damn shame. And I'm kind of annoyed right now. I feel stupid because I have a Vita. I do. I still have mine. And I love my Vita. But I kind of wish I had purchased a second one, like a backup
Yeah,
Vita, because now they're like $500, dude. Like you can't. Good luck buying a Vita that isn't used for less than 500, 400, 500. And the memory cards are insane, by the way, right now too. So yeah, it sucks, man. I mean, we all knew this. It's interesting to see an insider's view of it. Is that this person seemed pretty disenfranchised with Sony about the whole thing too. Because they,
And the thing about it is
yeah,
like the way he's talking, it's not like he's mad at Sony. He's just like it is what it is. It's like it is what it is attitude with it. Like this is what
yeah,
happened, and hey
hmm
man, like it is what it is. I don't like the stuff that they did, but have to live with it. And I don't know. It's just it kind of confirms a lot of stuff that everybody was thinking. Like you said, it's just weird to hear someone actually confirm it though. Like, yeah, this is
hmm
what you guys were thinking. This is exactly what the fuck happened. Like, it is just weird. And then Sony's
yeah,
weird obsessions with stuff. Because to be honest, the fucking DS has been broken like plenty of times. Like the homebrewed stuff. They call it
hmm
homebrew kits, I think, for the DS and 3DS. They've been broken.
yep,
And I don't think that killed, maybe it wasn't as popular rather,
hmm
to be homebrewed. But I don't think that killed like 3DS and stuff like that. I just think I don't even want to say Nintendo embraced it. They probably didn't even fucking know about it, knowing Nintendo. But I don't know. It just that should have been more initiative, right? In my opinion, for you to be like, okay, why are they breaking? Why are they jailbreaking it? What kind of things are they getting? Oh, they're playing
yeah,
regular PS1 games on there. Hmm. Well, maybe we should put PS1 games on the market. I mean,
yeah,
it's it's like they didn't think outside the box, and I don't know who to blame, the developers or the executives for just missing that mark. Like, cause that could have been
hmm
this could have been your virtual console machine. Like, hey, you want to play old PS2 games? Buy a Vita. You can play all the PS2 games you want on that boy. Even some
hmm
PS3 games that can run decently well. We can do
yeah,
that for you. So
yeah.
it's just
And,
it's just a huge it's just a huge window missed in my opinion. And I'm worried
yeah,
about
I
Nintendo
mean,
making the same mistake, to be honest with you.
yeah, some other interesting tidbits. This person does confirm that there was a BioShock game in development on the Vita,
Oh, yep.
and that negotiations between Sony and 2K collapsed. And then Irrational fell apart after that, shortly after that, anyways. So it didn't seem to matter. And then there's some other interesting points here. Somebody asked about backwards compatibility, in that they had statistics that said that it was not a very used feature, despite how much people complain about it and want it. Um, and he does mention Jim Ryan here. He doesn't know what he said, but that in terms of how little it's used, they had confirmation that it wasn't a very utilized feature.
Okay.
Um, then he does say the proprietary memory card was a hack deterrent. And then HDMI was on one of the prototypes, but there was a software issue making it hard to use for some
Mm.
reason. So that's why
Okay.
they took the HDMI port out ultimately and made it
Okay.
PSTV eventually. Um, and then he did mention Jim Ryan. He didn't ever really meet him, but the impression he got from any kind of communication he got from the guy was that the dude was a businessman first, which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of the impression I get from him too, of course. But yeah, so it's a lot of interesting stuff here. But it's just a shame. It's a damn shame. The Vita is going to be probably the one of them. It's one of the biggest failures in gaming history. But
I'll say that it's
um,
gonna be up next. I still think the biggest one is the Dreamcast. Um,
oh yeah, yeah, I guess that's true. But
but
in terms of being a device, I think that there's irony there, because both devices are good devices.
yeah,
You know,
it's gonna
the
be
Vita
hailed as
is
one
an
of those devices
excellent
that was
handheld.
like ahead of its time, and I think
Yeah,
everyone says
yeah.
that about the Dreamcast, and the Vita will be the same way. Like it's so ahead of its time. It was the Switch before the Switch came out.
hmm Yeah. And yeah, the Vita, I mean, dude, the Vita was $250. And think about how powerful that thing was in 2012, you know? I mean, what a fucking device, man. It's such a damn shame that this happened to it, you know? But It is what it is, man. So yeah, check that out. Check that thread out on Reddit. It's on the Vita subreddit. So if you guys want to check it out, it's still up there. It has not been taken down or anything like that. So definitely worth a look. All right, Montreal, let's move on. We got a few more stories to get through here. There was a story. This will be a quick one, probably. There was a story floating around that there are a bunch of PS3 games that actually could not be patched. And this list was on PSN Profiles, which is the trophy, one of the trophy hunter sites. This was actually There was actually a really large list of games. Some of them being like Sony first party games, like Infamous was on here, I think. And Gran Turismo 5 was another one that was on here. So there was a lot of games on this list, but there is an edit in here saying that Sony has actually contacted them, and they, like the folks on this, making this list, and that they are going to be trying to issue patches for these games to fix them. So to actually allow them to be patched, because that's the problem right now. They like literally can't download their patches, which is really bad. Even for PS3 games. I mean, PS3 games got patched plenty. A lot of them did,
Yeah.
especially later in the generation. So, but Montreal, you're the one, I think you sent this to me, didn't you?
Yeah, I sent this in conjunction with the second story that we were talking about because I thought they would go hand in hand with each other.
Okay. Well, let me I guess talk about that one too. So the second story is that there's somebody on Twitter. Their name is Lance McDonald. They proved out in a video that PlayStation 4, that a failure or removal of the system's internal CMOS battery will result in users being unable to play games in an offline state, which is an absolute disaster to me, because I mean the batteries are going to die eventually. Like, batteries don't last forever. CMOS batteries definitely don't last forever. However, this is easy to fix. Sony could literally just release some firmware
Mm-hmm.
that fixes this. So I would be really disappointed if they don't fix this. This issue definitely needs more visibility, because this is to me, like, horrible. Like, I can't believe that this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. The reason I want to talk about both of them in conjunction is because you can't play some of these games and they're closing down this market. But then you go to the PS4 and God forbid something happens to your CMOS battery, you can't play those games until you log on to the internet. So if you buy a
Hmm.
if you get your PS4 repaired or something of that nature, or usually sometime with something happens with the CMOS battery on motherboards, you can just take it out and then put it back in and it will kind of reboot itself and work. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, if you do that, and that's actually a problem now, to be honest with you. It's honestly, I don't want to say a super widespread problem, but I can see the CMOS batteries dying and people like, what the fuck is going on with my PS4 within the next 3 years? Like that's
Yeah.
how,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and that's how that's how bad I think it's going to get, because a lot of people are experiencing it around the same time, but they just didn't know what the fuck it was. Like a lot of people, it's like a sickness. Like when you get sick and you're like, I'm just sick. But then you start seeing other
Yeah.
people with the same symptoms, and then there's a name to it, and people are like, oh,
Hmm.
this is what the fuck it is. And it's not like a um a placebo effect. This is like an actual thing. And yeah, this is an actual thing that's happening. A lot of people, even who sold their PS4s or got rid of their old
Hmm.
PS4s and got new ones, they're like, "Oh, that's what happened to my PS4. It just randomly died." So this has been happening before, but someone just now figured it out, and
Yeah.
it's pretty scary considering that you already can't download games on your PS3. So you want to keep your PS3, but God forbid you want to keep your PS4, and now that dies. Like you can't even play the
Yeah.
games. So
Mhm.
this is all around right now. I love Sony, but this is just not a good look for them at all. And they
Dude,
really
it's
need,
just thing after thing after thing, and I will say some of this stuff is starting to feel like we're just digging for things to
yeah,
bag them
yeah,
about. But at the same time, like I said at the beginning here, like this one, the CMOS battery thing, that is literally like that's software. Like they don't have to do anything. They just have to release a patch that allows any CMOS battery to work. with the console, you know,
Yep.
like for it to recognize another CMOS battery as acceptable in order for it to run, you know, run games. So it's I that needs to be fixed, in my opinion. But that seems to be Sony's play here is that I don't think they care, and I think they're gonna try to just wait people out, you know, on some of these issues because eventually none of these consoles are gonna work anyways. You know, like and they're just gonna at that point they're just like, well, what do we fucking care, you know? Like a lot of the issues with PlayStation 3, like those units, PlayStation 3s, I think are going to be dying soon. A lot of them probably already have. You know, they're going to be starting dropping like flies because consoles with disk drives are just inherently going to last less time than ones that are like cartridge based
Yeah.
because of the laser that reads the discs.
Yep.
You know, like they're just not going to work at some point. You know, um, so I don't know. These things are. This is why we're talking about game preservation, though, and backwards compatibility. I think the thing about that is to me like it's not necessarily about how much it's used. It's that it's there, and it's a comfort feature. You know, it makes me feel less stressed out about my game library. You know, I don't want to lose access to my games. I don't. You know, like that is really important to me, and there's a lot of other people that's important to. Even if we don't play these games all the time, of course we're not going to play them all the time. You know, like I don't want to play old games all day.
Yeah,
You know, like
I hate that
that's not what
argument.
we're asking for. You know,
Yeah,
like
I just really hate that argument that you're not gonna play it every day or you're not gonna go back and play it every day or whatever the fuck. But
mhm.
movie
So it's not
preserv
worth it for Sony to do it,
yeah,
right?
movie and book preservation though. Oh my goodness. God forbid we don't preserve a fucking movie. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I understand the
Well, dude,
importance.
no, we literally the government has a fucking library to preserve movies. Like they have a copy. They have a copy of every. I'm pretty sure they have a copy of like every movie
Yeah,
just to have it for preservation purposes. So we're gonna need something like that. I feel like for video games, you know,
yeah.
um,
I,
somebody to come in like that, you
yeah,
know.
and I believe Microsoft is taking the right steps in the right direction.
Hmm.
But I think these companies, man, they need someone there, and the problem is, right? It doesn't cost that much. Like it doesn't. Maybe it costs a
Hmm.
couple $1,000s to just preserve the games every year. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But like, it's like to me, once you have the system set up, it's easy as drag and drop. Like that's it. Like just have a
Hmm.
hard drive with all the coding and everything on, or not a hard drive, but like a
Yeah.
Dropbox or a cloud based system or something like that with everything on there. Because a lot of these games don't even cost that much. They don't even take that much data. Like a PS1 game is like maybe 500 megabytes, and I'm being generous, like maybe 2 to 300 megabytes. So it's
But
like,
like a game size.
yeah, the PS1 games are
Yeah,
actually
I
pretty
mean,
large.
yeah, I mean, PS1 games are on CDs, which had about a 600 to 650 megabyte size limit on
Yeah,
them, and then DVDs were PS2 games, so that was about 2.5 gigs at most.
yeah,
Was the size for those, and then we've been on Blu-rays, I think, since PlayStation 3. So
yeah. But like, but exactly. My point is like we can store a lot of that stuff, and it doesn't cost that much to store it.
no, I agree with you. Like PlayStation 1 games don't take up a lot of space.
Yeah, and I think there
They're
should
just
be some kind of mandate among whether like it be from not the government. I don't think the government should do it, but like maybe the companies themselves, like Nintendo, Xbox,
Mhm.
and Sony, have some kind of mandate. Like if you're gonna make a game for us, you have to make a copy to store it in your own company system or whatever, or you can store within our system at all. Like for indie
Mhm.
games, like obviously it'll be like you can store that with us. Like we'll do that for like maybe 1%
Mm,
of the total, whatever, or whatever the
yeah.
case may be. But like, yeah, they need to that because this is very important. I don't care what anyone says. Like this is super important for video games. This is a major media. We have to get out this mindset that yes, it is a hobby, but books are a hobby too. You know, movies are a hobby as well. Like these preserve what history was made of. Like
Yeah.
so.
I do think games are a little more complicated, and I do want to correct myself from earlier. It's the National Film Registry,
Okay.
is what I was talking about, and they don't have a copy of every movie. They have a select list of movies that they've specifically decided to preserve.
But
So,
even companies though
um,
still preserve their own movies. Like there's
yeah,
warehouses
yeah,
full of like
but
old fucking movies. Like
to be fair to the game industry, the thing with movies and books is easy to preserve because it's literally printed on a page.
yeah,
And you just need a copy of the book and you need to put it somewhere. You do need space for that, so that's not negligible. But for movies, it's also easy because the formats of them are uniform, between their play formats.
yeah,
Whereas video games, this is the problem: is video games have multiple different platforms they've been made for over the the many decades we've been playing games. So that's where it's complicated.
yeah,
Is that you're having to marry multiple different companies, formats, consoles, all that stuff, and preserve games on those. That's the difficult part for video games. So um that's where the companies themselves have to come in and digitize this stuff and make it able to be played going forward, which is what Microsoft's doing. And that's the irony: is their heritage is the worst of the three major players, and they're the ones who care about preserving their heritage. It's so silly to me. It really is. Because yeah, I think Sony's making a big mistake, and they're gonna regret it going forward if they just decide anything before PS4 is like not worth our fucking time. Because there's a lot of great fucking video games on those old consoles. And to me, they deserve to be playable for young people and even those of us who are nostalgic for them. And I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not playing retro games all the time, but I love the fact that I can. Like I was talking about earlier this episode, I want to go play Final Fantasy Tactics on my fucking Vita because that's really the only way I can play it right now.
yeah,
And if I lost access to that and literally couldn't play Final Fantasy Tactics, how fucking shitty would that be? That I have to go play it on phone? That's the only way I can play Final Fantasy Tactics. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, no, that sucks. That's a future I want no part of. So I don't know why people are so like vehemently like, well, oh, we don't fucking need these fucking like, bro. Okay, like great. Okay, I'm glad you don't give a shit about retro games, but some of us do. And like there are plenty of games. Like my game collection, most of my game collection is centered on retro. It's games that I loved from my youth and when I was younger that are not available now. I can't get them anywhere else. So I went out of my way to buy them to make sure I have access to them if I ever decide I want to play them again. Games like Bait and Katos, right? Like the two Bait and Katos games on GameCube. Like there's no other way for me to play them. They never got re-released on anything. GameCube is the only place to play those games. So like I want to make sure I have access to those because they're like some of my favorite games. And there's games on PlayStation 3 and other consoles that I really love that I don't want them to go away just because Sony doesn't want to support backwards compatibility. So I don't know. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, do you have any other thoughts on these
uh,
articles or this topic?
no, not really. Mm.
All right, cool. Let's finish it off. Our final story: Age of Empires 4. It has been announced that it is coming in autumn of 2021. And it is going to be on Xbox Game Pass for PC when it launches. So this is another get for Microsoft. Age of Empires, though, Montreal, did you ever play Age of Empires? Age of Empires 2
Yeah, yeah,
back in the day?
yep,
You did?
yeah. I
Okay.
played it a lot.
Yeah, Age of Empires is awesome. I think it's a great series. The fact that an RTS is being made in this franchise, it's a great surprise, to be honest. I think it had been revealed a while back, so we knew about it, but I'm glad that it's happening. I don't know if I'm going to play it. I kind of want to though, to be honest with you, dude. I I'm in a weird mood. I kind of want to play an RTS. Like I'm the Warcraft 3 Reforged was like such a letdown last year that I kind of want to play something. Some kind of RTS. So maybe this will be the game. I don't know. You have any interest in this though
Oh yeah,
yourself?
I'm looking at it. I think I might pick it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
It
it looks
looks
pretty
it
good,
looks
dude.
really good though.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they make it, because um Age of Empires was always kind of weird in the way it played, right? Because you had like the 4 different ages you went through, but there was such like a jump between each age that you would just like be able to fucking dominate people,
Yeah.
in it. Like if you made a jump and you attack them, at that point is like you could take advantage of the tech difference. But um yeah, I mean the games though are just, they're really fun. There's so like every civilization has like unique units and shit. It's really cool. So
Yeah, I just remember this game and then Rise of Nations. That was another one I used to
yep,
play. Where that one
yep.
you can do the same thing, but you go all the way into the future. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was like planes and stuff, and you
yeah,
could even go
you can
past that too.
yeah, you can go past that and you start making mechs and shit like that. It was pretty funny.
Hmm.
But it was actually a good
Yeah,
game
I
too.
did play that once. I bought Resonations on Steam, and I played it once, and I was like, I hate this game. I didn't like it how fast it was. Like, dude, you got to like high level tech so quickly in that game, and it just didn't work for me. Whereas like Age of Empires was really slow and plotting.
Yeah, but they did stop
I
at like one the age right before you like I think it was the Imperial Age actually, or
It was the medieval age, I think. No,
was it
no,
the
I'm wrong.
Colonial Age?
No,
I thought they had
it was
expansion.
colonial, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was colonial. Well, that might have been Age of Empires 3. I think 2 might have ended in like the Renaissance period, sort
I
of.
think that's
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think
yeah,
it
I
was
mean,
pre. I think it was pre gunpowder,
yeah, yeah.
but I don't remember. I don't remember. It's been so long, dude, since I played it. But yeah, it's a good series though. So yeah, autumn 2021. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. But yeah, Montreal, you got anything else you want to talk about before we go today?
Nope, that's it.
All right, perfect. So thanks for listening, guys. If you like the episode, please like the episode, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever your feed you are listening to it on. If you could, please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNote01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is it, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.